Hey everyone, it's Gabrielle, and today I'm going to go through everything you need to know about the night before the exams. So basically, we're going to go through how much study you should be doing, what study methods you should use, and also what you should pack into your bag. I'll also sprinkle in a few of my own little tips and tricks from when I did my own Leaving Cert, and some of these things I still do to this day, the night before I have an exam for college. So let's get into it. So before we get into how much study you should be doing, I think it's really important for you to prepare properly for your last study session before you do your exams the next day. So my best recommendation would actually be to get dressed in something really cozy after you're finished your dinner and you're ready to start studying. I would highly recommend against actually wearing your pajamas because I don't think that will do you any favors. Your mind is either going to think, oh, I'm wearing my pajamas, so I am going to go to sleep and not focus on study, or when you do actually go to sleep after your study session in your pajamas, it might be kind of difficult to switch off your brain from study mode to sleep mode. This is because you've been wearing your pajamas this entire time while studying, so it is really important to not wear your pajamas right now. Put those on when you're ready to go to sleep. I'd also recommend making yourself a little cup of tea too. I really recommend a cup of herbal tea while you're studying, something that doesn't have too much caffeine in it. However, if you absolutely love Barry's tea like I do, they actually do a decaffeinated version of it because apparently tea actually has a lot of caffeine in it. I'd recommend that with a little bit of milk and a little bit of sugar to keep you going. And one last thing I would recommend is actually as soon as you are ready for your evening study session to take your phone and put it in a place where it is really hard to reach, because when you are already tired from a really long day of study, you're going to be tempted to go on your phone and check TikTok or Instagram, because I know that is exactly what I'm like the night before my exams. So you should be focusing on the quality of your study rather than the quantity of your study. And what I mean by this is also maybe not studying on a messy desk like I have behind me. You might be better off clearing off your desk before you get started with any study. This is because on a cluttered desk you might get a little bit distracted, so I might just go and tidy that up now. So if you're now at your cleared off desk ready to do some study, how much study should you be doing? Well, everybody seems to have a different opinion on this. Some people swear by just not doing any study the night before and just spending all of their time scrolling on TikTok. This I actually would really not recommend, but I also wouldn't recommend cramming for the entirety of the night before your exams, like staying up really late just trying to get as much information to stick into your head and then coming to the exam hall the next day absolutely wrecked. You do not want to be doing this neither. So the best thing here would be to think, at what time do I want to finish studying? Think of it like that. For me, I actually finished all of my study sessions at around 10 o'clock every single night before my exams. So at least then I knew an exact time that I needed to get everything revised and everything done with, and then I could enjoy the rest of my evening. And I found this to be really effective because when I didn't set myself a specific time limit, I ended up just like doing all my study really slowly and just not making the most effective use of my time. But when you give yourself a time limit, then you're much more likely to get a lot of work done in that set time. And to be honest, I completely get the appeal of staying up all night to study because I certainly did that for some of my Christmas exams and some of my midterm tests too, but that never gave me any favors whatsoever. The worst thing that you could do in your Leaving Cert or junior cycle exams is actually like show up really tired to the exam hall and then make loads of really silly mistakes. In August, you really do not want to be in a situation whereby you're looking over your exam papers and trying to see where you can maybe get it recorrected and get a few extra marks, and then see that you made a ton of really silly mistakes. The best way that you can avoid making silly mistakes in your exams is actually by just showing up on the day of the exam well rested, having your full night's sleep, and giving it your best shot like that. So when you're deciding how much study you want to do the night before, always remember that quality over quantity matters the most here. So moving forward, what studying methods should you use the night before your exams? The really easy answer to this is actually literally any active study method. At this point, the night before your exams, you absolutely have to avoid passive study methods like the plague. A passive study method is basically something that you do to study, but it doesn't get anything to stick into your head. An example of this is just reading your book. But I would also argue that doing things like rewriting your notes from one page to another isn't the best study method neither, because you're not really actively engaging your brain to remember the content that you're writing. And so the opposite of a passive study method is an active study method, which basically refers to any study method that requires you to test yourself. A few examples of active study methods can be going through flashcards, going through past exam paper questions, taking out a blank sheet of paper, writing down every single thing you know about a topic on the sheet of paper, and then comparing it to your notes. So at this point, if you really want to do some study, say for 3 hours before you go to bed, then the best thing you can do is test yourself on as many topics as possible. And at this point, I would recommend going through topics that come up quite often. For example, if there is a specific topic that comes up every single year, then absolutely go through a few past exam paper questions about that topic. But that being said, I wouldn't stick to just one topic neither. The idea here is to go through as many topics as possible, and specifically the topics you feel as though might come up on your exams. I think the most important thing is to just be testing yourself at this point. Do not be using passive study methods. And so we've gone through how you should be studying, how much time you should spend studying. Now let's go through what you should do after you're done with your study session for the night. So a little hack for getting a better night's sleep is actually to pack your bag the night before your exam and not the morning of your exam, because I know that I was losing a little bit of sleep thinking whether or not I packed everything I need. So let's go through a checklist of everything that you need to bring to the exam hall the next day. So the handiest thing would actually be to have a little list on your phone going through absolutely every single thing that you could possibly need. On my own list here, with regards to the pencil case, I have multiple pens. Do not go in with just like one singular biro. That could run out, something could happen, so always make sure you have a few extra. And then you need a pencil for your diagrams, a rubber and a topper for your pencil. You need a ruler as well, and your calculator. Do not forget those. And if you're doing anything mathsy, then you might need your geometry set as well. Except be sure to check beforehand whether all of the little stuff that you'd find in your geometry set is actually in the geometry set. You do not want to be going into the exam, opening it up and seeing that it's empty. And then also you would need a bottle of water, which I conveniently have here. And then you'd need also a watch. Where did I put that? You'd also need a watch, which I just cannot seem to find my own right now, which kind of highlights the fact that you should do this the night before your exams and not the morning of, to save yourself a lot of stress. And remember, with the watch, you're not allowed to bring in Apple Watches or Fitbits. So make sure that it's just a regular watch that you'd wear on your wrist. And then you need your notes to look over before the exam. I have here. And then finally, you should pack in a snack or a treat, because once you'll be finished with your exam, I think you deserve to treat yourself with a nice little bar of chocolate or something sweet. And also you can bring in your log tables if you want to, but you won't be able to use those log tables in the actual exam. And by the way, no matter what exam you're going into, I'd really recommend having all of these materials in your bag at all times. Even if it means it's a little bit heavier, I think it's worth the peace of mind to have everything packed and ready to go. And so your bag is packed, you are done with your study for the night. Now all it's left to do is sit back into your bed and try to fall asleep. For me personally, this was quite a difficult part of the exams. I was, and I think I always will be, a chronic overthinker, so falling asleep on the nights of my exams was actually a bit of a challenge, even if I finished my study well earlier than the time I'm going to bed. bed at. So I'm not sure whether this will work for everybody, but something that really worked for me when I was trying to go to sleep, it sounds cliche, this whole idea of counting sheep, but I would always try to count to 100 in the hopes that I will fall asleep before I get to 100. When I tried to do this, I'd have all these things pop into my head like, oh, what if 𝗟𝗶ሔር𝗸𝘀 doesn't come up tomorrow? Or what if something bad happens? If I would start to overthink a little bit, what I would do in my head is I'd imagine like those thoughts that I have and I'd put them into like an imaginary envelope. I'd seal the envelope and like send it away and then continue counting to 100. That really helped me to fall asleep, but other people might choose to do a little bit of yoga beforehand, do some like stretches that might help to clear your mind, or even just reading a really boring book. As long as it's not like school related, I don't think it'd be good for you stressing before going to bed with that. So I think it's just really important for you to do whatever works for you, whatever will make you get a good night's sleep. And if you're watching this and you're a little bit worried about the exams, or if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to comment them down below. I will be checking the comments quite regularly, just in case you have any questions. I will be happy to answer them for you. I really hope this video has helped, and if it did, please leave a like and subscribe. And so yeah, best of luck with the exams.